Hello, and welcome to Arts and Entertainment.
With Chris and Randall.
I'm Chris,
I'm Randall.
and welcome to the show. If you're new to the show, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Randall, what's the best way to reach us?
Check out our website, chrisandrandall.com, and you can also go to Facebook. I mean, we're both on there. Arts and Entertainment with Chris and Randall is our page. Yeah.
Well, today we are doing something that is rarely talked about, which is hobbies. I'm not normally a guy with a lot of hobbies, but during the pandemic, I really got into doing puzzles. My girlfriend, who is a big fan of puzzles, turned me on to the 1,000-piece puzzle. So we're going to talk a little bit about puzzles and how they are as a form of entertainment and maybe even as an art form. A little background on the puzzle. London engraver and cartographer John Spilsbury is believed to have produced the first jigsaw puzzle around 1760 using a marquetry saw. Early puzzles known as dissections were produced by mounting maps on sheets of hardwood, cutting along national boundaries, creating a puzzle useful for teaching geography. The royal governess, Lady Charlotte Finch, used such dissected maps to teach the children of King George III and Queen Charlotte. The name jigsaw can be associated with the puzzle, came to be associated with the puzzle around 1880 when fret saws became the tool of choice for cutting the shapes. Since fret saws are distinct from jigsaws, the name appears to be a misnomer. Cardboard jigsaw puzzles appeared in the late 1800s, but were slow to replace wooden ones because manufacturers felt that cardboard puzzles would be perceived as low quality. In fact, jigsaw puzzles soared in popularity during the Great Depression as they provided cheap and long-lasting entertainment. It was around this time that the jigsaws evolved to become more complex and marketed towards adults. They were given away in product promotion and used in advertising, with customers completing images for promoted products. Now, after World War II was over, it became too expensive for wooden jigsaws. The wages were too high, and improvements in the manufacturing process made jigsaws more attractive. Again, there's something about World War II, post-World War II, where every bit of consumerism and entertainment is reborn. So in the modern era, a post-war era, today's era, modern jigsaw puzzles are made of paperboard as they are easier and cheaper to mass produce. An enlarged photograph or printed reproduction of a painting or other two-dimensional artwork is glued on cardboard, which is then fed into a press. The press force is a set of hardened steel blades of the desired pattern called a puzzle die through the board until it is fully cut. They used to have these very expensive hydraulic presses, but now they've switched over to lasers. So it's cheaper to make good puzzles.
They use lasers to cut puzzles now?
Yeah, they use lasers. It's just easier, more exact.
That's amazing.
And there was a surge in puzzle making, almost to rival that of the Great Depression during the pandemic, which is when I got in, because I love to follow a trend. And even though I'm really into 1,000-piece puzzles, I discovered a 1,000-piece puzzle is normally 38 pieces by 27 pieces, which means it's actually 1,026 pieces. So it's actually more than that. So I literally have continued to do at least one puzzle almost a week, 3 to 4 times a month with my girlfriend. Even now that, we've been vaccinated, we go out in the world, we do things, we're still really heavily into the puzzle. This thing has really become a big thing for me, Rand.
All right. Do you want to keep going with the background?
No, I want you to ask me questions.
Okay, I will ask you some questions, Chris. So, how do you pick out a puzzle to do?
All right. Well, this is the beautiful thing about puzzles is there are many different companies that make puzzles, and there's many different kinds of puzzles. And we really try to keep our puzzle making as diverse as possible. So, like, one of the most common things you see when you see puzzles are landscapes. Landscapes are also some of the most challenging puzzles. So I will say there's a company called Ravensburger and Clemtoni, and they're very good at making puzzles of landscapes. By the way, best place to find puzzles, Barnes & Noble. Swear to God, they have the most puzzles you will ever see, and they change their puzzles every week. So, and they divide up their puzzles by like 300, 500, 1,000. Very well organized. I'm not getting paid by Barnes and Noble. Certainly, you find the puzzle maker you like. You can buy directly from them. You can go to your local independent puzzle seller. I'm not trying to make a big block store, do well. But so
All
there's
right, Chris.
landscape.
Yeah.
Hold on. You asked me what I picked. So there's landscape, which is going to take the most amount of time. There's also landscape can be anything from cities to nature. I prefer cities because in city landscapes, there's a bit more detail. I find that when you pick a puzzle, you're trying to find as much detail as you can, not so much detail that it's just overwhelming, but you want to, if you did like an entire field and everything's the same, you're going to end up having to look at the pieces by their shapes and not by the picture. The other thing I like to do is I like to take works of art. Works of art are great in puzzle form because it forces you to look really closely at the painting so that you're really getting a sense of what each tone and brushstroke, but they're very hard to do. I've done pattern puzzles, really hard to do. I've done photograph puzzles. They're fun too for the same reason that landscape puzzles are fun. Again, illustrated puzzles, there's a company named Remarks that does beautiful illustrations. There's a company called Pomegranate, which will take licensed art like Edward Gorey. And I love Edward Gorey. Look him up if you don't know what I'm talking about. But then the thing that I find that is the easiest and the most fun for me, and a company called White Mountain does this. I think Remarks also did it, is they'll make these puzzles, which are a collection of smaller works. So children's books, for example, is one of them. So it'll be like 50 children's books, right? You do each piece, it's its own small puzzle, and then you have to connect it to the bigger piece. This is the same with, say, Beatles albums. Ravensburger's done an amazing one on Beatles albums, or movie posters. White Mountain has so this is licensed art that you put together. I find it's a little easier because you're really taking a bunch of smaller pieces and you're working on them. You were saying. Well, so that's what I look at it. I think about that. How my girlfriend is really good at working at the shape of a puzzle. I'm better at looking at the detail. So these are things we consider before we buy the puzzle. Not that every time we buy a puzzle, it's perfect. We've maybe walked away from like 1 or 2 puzzles out of 50.
Yeah. So was it because they were too difficult?
Yeah, 1 or 2. I think we've done 2. I think it was literally one puzzle we never went back to because it was too difficult. We should. And another puzzle, which was a Frank Lloyd Wright series of lines that we did it, but oh my God, it was really the hardest puzzle ever.
All right.
And then there was one by the New Yorker that our New Yorker covers. Don't do them. They're terrible. I mean, yeah, 3 times I have literally bailed on my girlfriend. You're on your own. I love you. But most of the time I'm pretty good at it.
So you like a puzzle of maybe medium difficulty?
Yes, medium difficulty. Yeah.
Okay,
easy. Or easy.
Okay, so you go to
easy
Barnes.
Or medium.
Okay,
easy or good. Don't mess with medium. With easy.
So you go to Barnes and Noble. You pick out the puzzle. You go to her place. I'm guessing. Yeah. And then
right, she has the big space, the big table. We have like a ton of lights on this table. We've got like 6 lights, and sometimes I'll also wear reading glasses. Because I will warn you, if you're a middle-aged person doing a puzzle, you need as much light as a makeup mirror. You need as much light as as a stage play. All right. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it. If you use reading glasses to read, then by all means use reading glasses to work on your puzzle. She doesn't have to. She's in her 40s. I'm in my 50s, which is different that way. But wow, we just recently bought a whole bunch more lights, and it made such a difference.
How many lights do you think you're hitting the table with?
Well, she got one of those weird lamps that has like 6 lights on it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like an octopus.
We'll count that as 6.
Right, and then we have a overhead light, and then we have another desk lamp.
So like 8 lights?
At least.
Okay. Okay, so are you sitting or standing? Do you have chairs at the table when you do this?
Here's an interesting thing. So what we tend to do is we lay out the puzzle flat, and one of us will sit down looking up at the puzzle, and one of us will sit looking down at the puzzle. And then we'll switch. And we'll switch. We'll
So
take
one
turns.
sits and one stands.
No, we both sit. But
Okay,
one
okay.
is looking, hold on, but this is cool. So one of us is looking from the top down, the other one's looking from the bottom up. And also, uh, yeah, as I felt personally, there, I think that when you work on a puzzle, the first thing you really have to do is build the border. So you find all the side pieces and you build the frame. But the longer you work on a puzzle, the less easy pieces you've got. So you're gonna hit a point where you've been doing it for like many hours. And at this point, like around maybe you've got 70% done, get up. And I will normally, during the last quarter of my puzzle, I'll stand up half the time. Because when you're standing up and you're looking at it from all four angles, standing, you will see things that you would not see sitting down.
Do you move around so much that you start building up a sweat when you're working on these?
No, but I would certainly suggest that every time, if you do have reading glasses, take your reading glasses off every time you get up, or you'll get dizzy. Uh,
So how many hours at a time are you working on this, do you think?
well, that's
Like
a great
for a
thing,
stretch?
and that is kind of the neat part of the puzzle because we talked about the mini puzzles within a puzzle, and if you're a beginner and you haven't done puzzles and you're going to do a puzzle with one other person or three other people, this is a good way to start because if you do, let's say, 50 movie posters or 50 book covers, and I like it because it's you get to look at what the artist did, then everyone can assign themselves, like you'll do this row, I'll do that row, or you'll do this poster, and then we'll figure out where this poster goes. So those maybe will take anywhere from 4 hours to 7 hours,
Well,
just
you're
depending
not doing
on.
that straight, are you?
My record, my girlfriend and I, our record for the longest continuous time that we've sat down is 5 hours and 45 minutes. Just getting up to go to the bathroom or have something to drink, literally. And that
Do
was
you,
like, not even more than 3 months ago. It was a fairly easy puzzle, like the one we just described. Sometimes when you buy puzzles, different puzzle makers will give you a poster of the puzzle, so you
mhm.
can look at the poster as well. It's like a map. Others you just got to work off the box, but this one came with a little poster, so you could look at the box, you could look at the poster, and it was just like a series of 50 piece pictures within it, and we just 5 hours 45 minutes. I clocked us, and we never did anything but just the puzzle. And often when we work on a puzzle, we the minimum amount of time that we'll sit down is at least an hour, and on average, I'd say 2 3 hours at a time. Now, the more complicated puzzle can take as long as 14 hours.
Are you playing music while you're doing this, or TV, or what? What's all going on
Nope.
in the background? Nothing. Silence.
We're talking. We talk. I
What
like talking when working on a puzzle. She doesn't need it,
What are
but
you talking
I
about?
that's kind of interesting. I don't know, to be honest with you, because I think when we're working on a puzzle, I get to this space where I'm normally talking about the puzzle with her, and she's talking about the puzzle with me. Like, I think this belongs here, or that. Occasionally, my mind will start to drift, and I'll just start thinking about jokes or funny material, or I'll find myself just having these random thoughts. But she's pretty good about staying on task. Now, she she teaches psychology, and her specialty is the brain. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm getting this right, but every time you put a piece together, you get a hit of dopamine. You know what that is, right?
Yes.
So it's a chemical in the brain. It relaxes you. It makes you feel good. So normally, depending on how easy or hard the puzzle is, you're putting a piece together anywhere from every 30 seconds. It can be as fast as every 30 seconds to as slow as every 2 minutes. But it's still like
Do you feel
pretty
like you're
steady
feeling that?
amount of dopamine. Oh yeah, and you will hit this weird. I call it puzzle drunk. where you've now gotten so many hours of dopamine and you're so like you're so in it, you're so like in it that you're kind of like loopy. You know what I'm saying? Like the longer you get at it, the more you're like, hey, crazy things. As a writer, I have come up with some amazing jokes. My girlfriend has told me, she's a comic too, when she's not teaching, that some of my best material is the stuff I just randomly spill out while I'm trying to put together a
Well,
damn piece of
do you ever
puzzle.
write them down when you?
No, I'm too busy doing the puzzle. I got to remember them later because it's very addictive. Like I didn't play video games growing up. I played pinball when I was a kid, and that was it. So I never understood why anyone would stand in front of a TV monitor or a computer for hours just playing stuff. It never made any sense to me. I played Dungeons and Dragons. That was interactive with another person. But the puzzle, you'll lose sleep. You'll reprioritize the day. It was great during a pandemic where there was not much to do anyway. It was a perfect rainy day activity.
Have you tried playing video games?
Yeah, I find them boring.
All right. Okay, so what happens when you put that last piece in? Tell me what happens.
Well, the thing is, I'll get back to that later because I get your point. I know where you're headed on this, but the thing about puzzles, it comes in waves. So when you first put together the puzzle, you're going to work on the frame of it. That's the top, the bottom. You find your corner pieces, and that you're riding pretty high. You get a sense of containment, and then you have to kind of like divide up the pieces from the box. So you're using a part of your brain that thinks three-dimensionally. So you don't know exactly where things are, but you are organizing. Let's say there's a row of things that are greenish brown, and you kind of know they're going to go somewhere. Or these things have flowers on them, so they're going to go somewhere. Or here's a sign, there's like lettering. So you start kind of moving things all the way into different spaces. And it's interesting, again, because my girlfriend will look at a free piece and she'll try to think where something with an indent and a tab should meet something with an indent and tab that has this shade of blue that's kind of light and kind of this. Whereas for myself, I'm really bad at the cuts on a puzzle, but I can memorize like a fragment of a word or a fragment of a flower. Like, oh, I think this particular, like Ravensburger is a good example of this. At Ravensburger, all of their puzzles are, Ravensburger does this, Clemtoni does this. A lot of puzzle makers will hire an artist to make a work of art that then is made into a puzzle. And if that's the case, there's normally a hack. Does that make sense?
A hack?
A hack. There's something about the puzzle, a clue.
Oh, I see.
Figure out, it'll go a lot faster.
The art is helping you. The art of the puzzle is helping you.
Ravensburger is notorious in that they'll leave something in each little piece that if you kind of figure it out, it's like, oh yeah, only this color is on this side, or there are 4 orchids and they're 4 different colors. So as long as you know which color it is, it's got to be one of those 4 orchids. So that's really nice, and things move pretty quick. But sometimes you'll get something. Let's say we once did one that was a Van Gogh painting. Well, Van Gogh did not make this painting to be made into a puzzle. And however they cut it, they did the best they could. But it's mind-numbing.
Did you finish that one?
Yeah. So the finishing of the puzzles is the dullest part of the puzzle. I just why I'm kind of holding off on it. Like, yeah, you finish the puzzle. Normally, what we do that's very sweet is when I see there's like 8 pieces left, I'll give her 4, she'll give me 4, and then we'll figure out within about 3 seconds where all 8 pieces go. And sometimes we'll like, where's that missing piece? And it's on the top of the puzzle. We just didn't see it, So that's actually the least exciting part. It's done. We look at it. We marvel at it. We take a photo of it. Sometimes we glue it together, and my girlfriend frames it. But can I tell you what I find to be the most fascinating part of working on a puzzle?
Of course.
Do you know what flow state is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when you're really working on a puzzle for a really long time, what happens is, you're trying to find At first it starts out, it's a very conscious thing where you're trying to find where like something goes, and there's a lot of trial and error. And often you can go in the wrong direction. In fact, sometimes if you're not careful, you can make a piece work that doesn't belong together, which, depending on the puzzle maker, is either easy or hard. I will again say Ravensburger is a great company because if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. But there comes this weird moment where, like, you just see a piece and you put it in your hand, and without thinking, you just put it where it goes. And I'm not really sure how the brain knows without you consciously thinking that this is where it goes.
You've developed a part of your brain that's just working on puzzles subconsciously, Chris.
Yeah.
You're
And
starting
it
to
is
scare me.
interesting. No, but the
You have a
subconscious does.
superpower.
No, but it does take over, which, I think that, doing a puzzle, it definitely changes the way you look at the world.
How so?
It forces, I think that everybody has a default focal point. Because you're a photographer, you know this, right? Like some people, like when you go to a museum, how far do you normally stand back to look, or how close do you look at a painting?
I go every distance, Chris. I'm
Right, you're
crazy.
a photographer, right? Have
Yeah.
you ever noticed that most people, when they look at a painting, kind of stay maybe 3 feet, 4 feet
Yeah,
back,
there's a normal distance for most paintings, yes.
and they look at it dead center?
Right.
So my mom's a painter, so I know like painters don't paint that way. You know, they go all over the canvas. They put things in all parts of the painting. They play with perspective. They play with angles. So if you're looking at a painting in a museum, for example, or work with photography, but we'll stick with painting, it really helps. If you look close, right, you can see the brush stroke, right?
Right.
And if you look off to the side, you can see how they're playing with the vanishing point and the horizon point. And then if you step really far back, you can see how the whole composition comes together, right? And how
Mhm.
the parts become, the sum is greater than the parts.
Mhm.
And that is something you experience when you work on a puzzle as well. You're forced to really look, and you're forced to have to go back and forth, right? Like it's like I just got a camera recently and I'm just learning how to play with like the different zooms, like up close, portrait, landscape. And it's like that, like you're forced to kind of realize that nothing is a static image.
Are you saying like if we had made Donald Trump do a puzzle like 10 years ago, it would have solved a lot of problems? Is that what you're saying, Chris?
I don't know. I just feel like um it I think that our brains follow patterns, and I think anything that breaks a pattern allows you to have new thoughts. Does that make that that's not too like woo woo.
Is there anything else you think that after doing all these puzzles has changed in your perception of the universe?
It's calming. It's just very calming. That is, I think, what I really like about it. If you do it with somebody that you're friends with or related to, it's fun. I went to New York fairly recently and I brought in a 500-piece puzzle. No, it's 1,000 piece. What am I saying? With my mom. It was one of the children's literature things where it was 50 bedtime stories. My mom had been a school teacher, an elementary school teacher, so she knew all the covers. And, the books were done anywhere from the late 19th century to the 1980s. So my mom's a painter and she also was teaching art and taught elementary school. So for her, it was a lot of fun to see the different illustrative styles of each book cover, as well as remember what it was like to teach the book and to work with her, and because she's a visual person, how she problem solves versus the way I problem solve.
How was it
And
different?
well, it's the same deal as when I work with my girlfriend. Everybody has a different visual strength and a visual challenge. I'm dyslexic, so I think maybe I look at the world slightly differently some of the times. But some people can really just look at a cut on a puzzle and go, "That's where this cut goes."
Do
My
you
mom is really good with like shades of things because she's a painter. So for her, there's like 20 different versions of light blue. Whereas for me, my ability to do color detection is nowhere nearly as refined.
Usually women
But I've
have
gotten
better.
better. What are you saying? Women
Usually
are.
women have better color perception than men.
I didn't know that.
I think
No,
that's a
that
scientific
explains.
fact. Yeah.
Oh,
There's
so
all.
and men. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's also like an extra like color rod in the eye that almost only women have. It's a very tiny minority of women, however.
Well, it would make sense that my mom would have it as a painter, and maybe I guess my girlfriend has it as well, because she can do it. To me, I definitely, I've certainly trained my eye to the best that I know how to train my eye.
Do you
But
think? Yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask. Do you think you can learn a lot by somebody by just sitting down and doing a jigsaw puzzle with them?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see, well, because it tests your patience. There is a point when you're doing a puzzle where you just want to get up and walk away. You're like, damn it, I give up. I give up. And you have to become very patient. Like there's this weird moment where like you go, I don't know where anything goes. And I say get up, you walk away. When you come closer to the end of the puzzle, we tend to get up and switch every 2 to 3 minutes. We never stay in one place for longer than 5 minutes because the eye settles. And it's a very weird thing when you looked at a piece 4 hours ago and you had no clue where it goes. And now, 4 hours later, without any knowledge of why, it all makes sense. And then, boom, you put it together. And it's so reassuring. Like you always exceed your own expectations as a human being when you work on a puzzle.
Well, Chris, I don't know. I think I might be out of questions. This is.
Well, I'll just add a few more bits about the puzzle then.
Yeah. Let me know.
In Europe, they have puzzle contests. Ravensburger is one of the places where people do compete. I've never done puzzle competition, but
Oh,
I
I had
think
no
that is
idea there were
fascinating.
puzzle competition.
Yeah, and everybody's, there are stores that specialize in selling puzzles. There are mystery puzzles, which I've never done, but I'm looking forward to trying. There are children's puzzles. I'm not saying, if you've got a small child, by all means, give them a simpler puzzle, but they're fun. Uh, Puzzles teach us a lot about spatial relationships, colors, light, texture. You can make your own puzzles. There are all sorts of kits online for building and making your own puzzles. You can take artwork, even public domain or non-public domain, and as long as you don't sell it, you can make it into a puzzle. Uh, there's a lot of creativity in puzzle making. I'm really fascinated by the people who are painters and illustrators who do just the work for the puzzle, because you have to think about what it will be like once it's done when you cut it up.
Hey, here's an off the wall question for you, Chris. Do you think like just making somebody do a puzzle would be a good job interview technique?
Certainly for how they handle stress, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think it's good to teach. I think that we live in a world today where most of our entertainment comes fast. And puzzles are really one of the last things where it may not come fast. I mean, if it clicks, it comes fast. But if it doesn't, it really forces you to just sit and contemplate. And I was just reading an article about how creativity seems to be declining in our society.
I read that same article.
Oh,
It's very
right.
interesting.
Right. And they found that as part of it is because we're just so busy these days.
Mm-hmm. Lots of distractions. No,
Lots
no
of
room
distractions.
for room.
Right. And everything kind of comes a mile a minute. And one of the more beneficial elements of being forced to stay indoors for a year and a half is just don't have to do a lot of stuff. So or a rainy day is the equivalent. So you're going to stay in, you're not going anywhere. You have time. And with a puzzle, there's a lot of faith. You're really forced to just have faith that if you just work yourself bit by bit, what's that old metaphor about how do you eat an elephant, like one bite at a time?
Yeah,
Like
or a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one
right,
step.
right. And you really learn the discipline of just realizing what commitment, discipline, time, and patience can help you do. Uh, but why am I still addicted to it? I can tell you exactly why. You didn't ask that question. I really think it's because when it starts rolling, and maybe this is why people love video games. I'm guessing do you play video games?
A lot more in my youth, yes.
It's the dopamine rush.
Yeah, video games are built around that. I mean, similar to some of the puzzle design techniques you've described, they want the participant, the player, to continually receive new rewards in a regular fashion, so that to keep you hooked in doing the activity.
And it is really interesting when you involve yourself on an addictive activity for entertainment's sake, because I mean, I can binge watch, but it's still a passive experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get tired and you'll just stop binge watching. You read a good book and you get tired. But I guess dopamine is kind of also like it keeps you awake.
Yeah, so
Right?
it keeps you stimulated all night, is what you're saying.
Yeah, right. And so it also keeps you awake and stimulated. So you will go a lot longer without being tired. You know, you really have to get to a crazy place of an exhaustion. So it is, and I spent like $25 a week. It's not an inexpensive hobby. You know, it's like anywhere from $18 to $25 a week at Barnes and Noble to buy, and I can get really like very in the weeds on this stuff. As does my girlfriend. It's just like that. So it is interesting. We talk a lot about hobbies and activities, but we really have never talked about an addictive hobby or addictive activity. And I don't think it's negatively addictive because I was just away for 2-3 weeks where I didn't do anything except maybe work. Well, no, I worked with them.
But you use the word
at least a week. I've gone up as long as a week and a half without touching a puzzle in the last year and a half. No, I haven't gone 2 weeks.
So you can describe it as addictive. Do you feel withdrawal when you haven't done a puzzle in a while? I mean, why is it addictive?
I think it's the neurons, it's the dopamine level.
But I mean, what do you feel when you don't do a puzzle for a while?
I think like anything that you find stimulating, it's not so much that you need to get it into your system as much as you find reasons to get it back into your system as much as you can.
Well, if it's an addiction, it sounds fairly mild. I mean, I don't. I wouldn't worry
it's an
about
addiction like chocolate ice cream is an addiction. You know what I'm saying? It's something like I probably should cut back on, but I don't. Obviously, if I had to, I would. But boy, if you don't ask me to cut down on it, and again, there's no calories to puzzle making. You know, as long as you pay your taxes, go to work, take a shower every couple of months.
Well,
as much puzzle making as you like.
I don't think I'm going to worry about jigsaw puzzle people trying to mug me for puzzle money anytime soon. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Have you ever attacked somebody to get their money for puzzles?
No, but it is amazing how many things my girlfriend and I have passed on because we're too busy doing them.
Really? Like what?
Like just going out and doing things because let's just get this puzzle done. And you don't really know how long that's gonna be. So saying that is hubris. Like,
so you've passed up socializing for puzzles.
Well, because when you hit the 50% mark, you're thinking, well, that went fast. I bet the next 50% will go even faster. And now, if you hit, there's any point in the journey, you're just gonna hit a real slow speed. You gotta learn to work through it. I definitely have to say, if you're listening to this and you do a puzzle by yourself, probably better to do 500 or less. Probably better to start out with something simple. Really don't get a big image. Get something with small images connected and then work your way through that. Better to work with another person who likes doing simple puzzles and only over time get to the more difficult stuff. And again, Barnes and Noble is a great place to go. Take a photo when you're done, send it to us. We'll love to see what your puzzles look like.
What about online? Is there a
puzzle
place,
glue too?
is there a place to buy online?
Probably there are. All the major companies, you can buy directly from them online, which is great. I really am a big fan of Remarks, Ravensburger, White Mountain, Pomegranate. These are great companies. Clemtoni, difficult but good. And depending on your own background, probably try to find something which doesn't have a lot of repetition, that has some repetition, but a lot of detail. And try to, when you look at it, figure out if you could do it in your head first. But don't get anything too too lacking in detail or too repetitive. Try to find something like what's behind us. If you're watching us, would be a wonderful puzzle because it's, you can put this together as a puzzle easily. Look at something like that and go, oh yeah, there's four pieces on top that are very different from the other four pieces. Try to take a little time before you buy and you'll have a great time. And if you can get one that comes with a little poster inside, by all means do.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, Chris?
No, thank you so much. Next time we'll maybe get to one of your hobbies. I'm Chris.
I'm Randall.
Have fun. Bye.
Bye.